Hey Bruno, welcome back.
Hey Adam, how are you doing, man? So good to be here with you. I was just saying to you that I love your podcast because it's always, entertainment and like good conversations, good technology. So it's always an honor to be here with you. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Oh, thank you. By the way, you mentioned the podcast. What I did the other day, 2 days ago, I took a look at the Apple podcast, and what I found, it's actually well rated. I think it was like 4.5 stars. So thank you to the audience for rating my podcast, and I really appreciate it. So I have to look it up earlier, but yeah, thank you for the really great reviews. And yeah, after the talk, Bruno, I think is even getting better.
Yes, everyone that's listening right now, you should go there and give a 5 star, right? So how come it's 4.5, right? So
This
it's
is a
really
rounding error. They didn't use big numbers. I think it's fiddle with double or something like this.
yes, that's right. So yeah, so go there. Give Adam your 5 star, right? Because his podcast is awesome.
Perfect. And my sponsors, which are not existing, love it.
Yes, that's even better.
We can have sponsor it. Bruno, what really interests me, you mentioned last year that the Christmas trees are a little bit
Right.
petty in Brazil. And what you're doing, you're buying them and then you are planting them and you have the entire wall full of Christmas trees.
Well, we buy fruit trees.
Yeah?
We make them as Christmas trees, right? So we bring them
Hmm.
inside the house and we decorate them as Christmas trees, and then we plant outside, right? So yeah, we have a bunch of them. And this time we already have, we can't decorate the Christmas trees too early because the trees suffer, right? If they are inside
Oh.
too much and all of that, right? So we have three small trees right outside of my window,
Hmm.
just waiting for maybe tomorrow. I'm just gonna bring them inside and decorate them for Christmas, right? So yeah, so we already have three fruit trees ready to go.
What fruit is it?
So I'm not sure if I know how to say their names in English,
Yeah,
right?
Brazil is just fine.
Okay,
Uh,
so yes, one of them is jabuticabeira. That's
Jabuticabere.
jabuticabeira. Yes, it gives tiny little berry fruits, right? So
Okay.
the fruits they come out in the trunk of the tree, right?
Hmm.
It's pretty nice.
Okay.
And then another one is called lixia. Uh,
Lychee. Hmm.
yeah, lixia is it's a very nice fruit. It has a big seed inside, and it's lots of white meat, right? And
Hmm.
then it's red skin, right? So it's
Hmm.
like chia. And then the other one is cajá, right? So cajá is a fruit that my wife likes, and
Kaja. Hmm.
yes, it's actually the smaller ones of the three trees because we have to buy trees that are large enough, right, for to be a Christmas tree, but small enough, right, that we can actually carry, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I buy two or three trees and I merge them together and make like a larger Christmas tree.
That's great. What I forgot the story actually. In Brazil, all people buying fruit trees, or are they buying the proper, Christmas trees, and they are dying then?
No, I think most people use fake trees, right?
Yeah.
Plastic or yeah, most
Hmm.
fake trees, right? But and then there are some people that buy Christmas tree, but the Christmas tree that you buy, when you buy a pine tree, the pine
Hmm.
tree they need to cut the
Roots.
root
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
that's
Hmm.
too much, right? So if you try to plant them, they usually don't survive, right? So we tried that a couple of times, and then we decided to move to fruit trees.
This is what I remember, because what I remembered, I thought that you are planting the pine trees, but fruit trees are even nicer. So you have the entire fruit
Yeah,
um,
we
garden.
tried to plant some pine trees. I even have one pine tree. Most of them died. I even have one that I call a zombie pine tree that's way back in my yard because it never died and it never survived, right? So
Hmm.
it's all brown. It has been there for a couple of years now. It's no, actually more than a couple of years, several years now because it's been a few years that we do this already. So it's still there. It's all brown and it has some tiny little green leaves in some branches, right? So you kind of become a zombie tree, and it's a little sad, right, that we try to plant a tree and doesn't grow. So
Yeah. Should call it monolith, like the monolith architecture. They never die, and but they never really
yes,
popular. So it's like a something in between.
yeah. So I have a monolith tree then.
Yeah, perfect. So it interests me because you have lots of companies as well. So what you did with Java last year? Last year we talked, I think, was November. So you had 12 months time. Do you still do something with Java, or are you just a manager managing people and?
No, actually, the thing that I'm doing a lot, and I'm doing a lot of things with Java developers, right? Having working. Let me just restart this again. So, start working with developers, right? Has been such a big change in my life. I devote all my time today to really help developers, grow their careers and understand where they're going and what kind of things what challenge they have, right? I still do things with Java, but mostly, personal projects and stuff for me, and just learning things. But I have not been working with customers lately. I still support people when they call me, and I help out in projects here and there. But really, I don't think there's anything more important than helping people be happy and strive in their careers and improve their lives or their families. So this last few years has been such an amazing for me because I've been focused on that, and all the stories of developers having success, and all the stories of people growing and really getting their families happy. The other day I was in an event in a city called Goiânia here in Brazil, and then when the pandemic allowed us to travel again, right? So I was there in this event, and I had two developers there. I went out for dinner with two developers, and one of them lived in Goiânia, so his wife came along. And so I had to answer phone calls, so I left the table for a few minutes and come back. The three of them were talking about how much their lives improved, and how much the working on better projects, and the wife was saying, it's amazing how much better we have. We're buying new cars, we're buying new houses, and life is much better, and our families are happier, and they're saying that's because they start doing the things that I tell them to do, right? And I think that there's no software I ever wrote in my life that gives me as much satisfaction as this, right? Having people really change their lives because they're doing the right thing. So that's what I'm doing right now, man. It's all kind of Java related because all developers, most of them work with Java, but it's more career than software.
Okay, so first a smaller question. What you did then with Java for you? You said you use Java for smaller projects. So what was it? Hello World doesn't count,
Hello world. No. So basically, I do. I have my own company, right? And so, there's all kinds of things that you have to do when you have your company. So I'm a very strong in automation, right? I love to automate things. So so basically what I do is that I build little tools that help me to automate things, right? So scrape things from here, save things over there, download things for this place, and use this API to upload somewhere else, right? So that's the kind of things that I do. A lot of little, and I like a lot, clients, right? CLIs, right? And command line tools, right? So basically, so tools to try kind of one interesting one that's the results are even public, right? So I'm very bad at remember names of people, right? So
what's my name?
you're right. You're Adam, right? But it's right here.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
But so one thing that I did getting ready for Java 1, right? So I did this little tool that downloads all the Java champions and get information from them, from their Twitter accounts and all that, and their pictures and all that, and then put in Anki, right? There's a tool to help you remember people, right? So So this kind of not remember people. Anki is a tool to that helps you remember things, right? In general, right? So
Okay.
I did that to help me, kind of connect the names to the people, right? I mean, most of the Java champions are my friends, and I know them, and it's not a problem. But there's a lot of others that don't know them very well, and so I did that to try to help me remember people. So no, this kind of little tools like this, right? Tools that allow me to just run command line, and instead of be clicking a lot of things, just kind of automate some of the things that I have to do.
Yeah, but this is actually also what I do a lot. I've read lots of small tools which help me. For instance, I do hacks workshops, and sometimes the attendees, get emails. So I wrote a
Hmm.
little Java tool which sends emails and stuff like that. So and it's fun, and you also learn a lot because such tools are not that trivial. What's trivial? Most enterprise project like create, read, update, delete is always the same. But if you
Hmm.
write little tools, you actually learn the most, right?
Yeah, it's very nice. It's I love that, because really, first of all, uh, they sound like one-off things, right? They're just kind of small things that you're going to do, but actually, the thing that I love about automation is that it shaves so much of your time right off, right? So no,
Yeah.
you you don't realize how many things you have to do to get some things done, and so when you have a little tool that automates that, it really helps you. So that's for me was always the biggest thing, for software development, was always automating things and making things run faster and smoother, and less manual errors. So those are the things that I do today.
And using Java 17 or Java 19, which Java?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always trying to keep up with Java, right? And so I'm trying to use whatever is the latest thing. But right now I'm on 17, right? Most of
Yeah.
the things that I installed is on 17.
But it's really nice, especially for automation. If you have to do something with JSON, for instance, the multi-line string is just great. And you can have, multi-line string with position parameters, which is very good if you would like to access, external APIs. Then we have the Java HTTP client. And there we go. I mean, with HTTP client, just, the JSON, the string, and maybe executor service, which is full optional. But I mean, it's already very lean and efficient. By the way, I'm recording from time to time on YouTube Shorts, and I'm using Java 17 syntax, var, and people ask, is it Java still? So what's really surprising, seems like no, there are Java developers out there who just using Java 8 maybe, because the syntax is Java 11 or Java 17. I mean, Java 11 is Java 17, but Java 11 looks exactly the same, and people are still surprised how lean and nice Java actually is today.
Yeah, and I think that's this is actually, we even we're in the JCP just this past week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Gass was talking about data oriented programming, right? So new features coming along that to make
Records,
it.
Java
Yeah,
records for automation, really great because you can scrape data and put it in stream and do something with it immediately. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
cool,
So that's all good, right? So I mean, the more the language helps out, right? The easier it is for us to do things, and that's great.
very good. So how are your company is doing? So since last year, so did the project changed or is it all the same? It's just new clients, or what's the state of the
No,
company?
yeah, so we had a lot of changes this year, right? So last year I had some difficulties. I had some uh, um, severe health issues,
Okay.
in my life here, right? For my wife and me, and so when I got to the end of the year, I realized that I was not doing a lot of things that I should be doing, and that I dropped a lot of balls, right? So, and then when this year started, I really had to look around, the things that I was doing, and look around, the lack of consistency that I was having. I think that for me, one of the most important skills that a developer can have is actually be consistent, right? So anything that you do, be writing a blog or create a podcast, or writing code or reading code, whatever it is that you do, that you become consistent at, right? That's makes such a difference in your life. You can really it's like the compound effect, right? It's amazing, right? Now
Yeah.
you think that just a few minutes a day is just too little, it doesn't help you much, but once you compound that day after day after day, it makes a huge difference, a huge result. And so I realized that by the end of last year, I realized that I was dropping the ball, especially in the consistency, right? It was very easy for me when anything happened that I stopped doing what I need to do. And that includes a lot of things, right? So, uh, especially in writing and in coding and other things that we always need to do. And so this year I made a really big effort to be more consistent and not only for me but also helping all my students to be more consistent. That was a big focus, for us this year. And I think that was very important, right? So it really helped us, kind of, I mean, we had very bad results last year. We were doing very well during the pandemic, but last year was really bad. And then this year we surpassed all of our results from past years. So it really showed that consistency paid off a lot. So it's
But what was
not.
the problem? It's like because you were not visible, you didn't got new projects, or what was the issue? Because if you
No, so basically, last year was very hard because of health issues, right? So my
yeah
wife, yeah, my wife had she had a kidney transplant in the beginning of last year, and that, I mean, she's very fine now, right? But for about 6 months, she had lots and lots of problems, lots of issues, and lots of difficulties. She spent many a lot of time in the hospital. She almost died at the ICU. It was really really complicated. And then by the middle of the last year, she was well, right? She really recovered. She was doing great, and everything sounded good, right? So, and then what happened was that I was diagnosed with a kidney cancer, right? And so that's got me into spinning the wheels, and all kinds of, I had to go to lots of exams and went to surgery, and the first time I ever did surgery in my life. And so and I was really afraid, really worried what's going to happen, and much more afraid than I seem at the time, it looks like. And so those two things, right, really got me doing other things, right? So it's funny enough that I actually didn't realize how the things that the company needed were not going well, but I did things that I thought was important for the long run, right? So, for example, I wrote a book last year because that, I had to start writing a book. I said, well, I got to finish that book now before I had to go to
what's the
surgery.
title?
Right? So, it's called The Little Book of Speaking Talents.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's all about speaking and speaking skills and this kind of things. But anyway, I think I completely lost consistency. I didn't do what needs to be done. I didn't realize that the worst of, I think that's the worst of is not that you lose consistency, when you don't realize, right? That you don't notice how things are. So that's one of the things that we changed this year, is kind of be more attentive to the results of the company, to more attentive to what really needs to be done. Last year we were just kind of hanging it most of the time, but this year we were more consistent, more specific. So this kind of things, right? I think that's I think that all of us, we go through very hard times, right? And many times we're not even able to discuss that with other people, or even tell other people that are going through the problems, right? And so and not only that, many times there's nothing that other people can do, right? The situation that we're going through, there's very little that friends could do or to help or anything like that. And so all of these, sometimes you get lost, or you get lost in the problems. And I see this all the time, right? Even when we're doing cool things and things that we like, right? I just talked earlier today with a developer, and she's amazing. She does all kinds of amazing things, and she was saying that for my impression that I had about from our conversation, that she got lost on trying to be better, on trying to improve her skills, on trying to be a better developer, and it got to a point that she burned it out, right? Or she very nearly burned out. And I see this a lot. A lot of developers, we get lost on this have to get better and have to improve and have to learn and have to do and have to whatever, and then we forget what's important. And then when you notice, we're burned out, we are upset with our companies, or resentful to our friends, resentful to our family, and then we get in this crazy spiral of depression. And so I think that this, I didn't have any problem with depression. Let me be clear of that. But I see a lot of people going through this, and then what happens is that we lose the sight of what's important, right? And so that's one thing that a good friend of mine, Yolande Pourrier, she always used to say, and I have to keep reminding myself. She used to say, check your assumptions, right? She would always say that, check your assumptions. And so so if things are going are going around you and you're not paying attention, we have to have this calm to check, right? To check things around us, check our assumptions, check if we're doing the right things, check if we're having the right results, because sometimes we get lost in this circle, right? And we're not doing what we need to be done. We're not getting the results that we want, and we don't see that we're not doing it, right? We don't see that we're not advancing. We don't see that we're running circles. And so that's why we have to stop and check where we are, check if we're really doing what needs to be done, check the assumptions. That's how Yolande like to put that. And then that's what happened with me last year, right? By the end of the year, I really had to check all of that, right? Because if I had not, I would probably be still today running in circles and having very little results. And it's not only us, right? It's interesting that people.
What do you mean running in circles? Like learning the wrong thing or doing stuff which doesn't matter, or what do you mean by?
I think it's mostly doing the things that not matter, right? It's doing the things. I think that one of the things that I see a lot is that developers, do things just to do it, right? So, for example, I need to learn new technologies. I learn just to learn, right? And I need to. Let me write a blog post. I just write a blog post just to write a blog post, right? So there's no really reason why we're doing this, right? So I'm just gonna do. I see Adam Bean does his podcast, so let me do my podcast too, right? And then there's no reason. We don't understand what's behind, what's the reason that's being done behind it, and then we get very tired thinking that this is the most important thing that I should do, and I spend a lot of time doing it, and especially learning. I think that developers, I like to say that developers has this desire, this love, this addiction to learn new things, right? And so we just learn for learning, and then we don't really understand why we're doing it, and how to benefit from that. And then it gets to a point that you can't learn everything. You can't really do all the things that you want to do. You can't really push yourself in all directions, right? And so because you don't know, you're just you're moving one step that way or another step this way, right? So that's why I call running circles, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting anywhere. And so
this is almost philosophy. Like you should know the why, right? Why I'm doing things.
Funny enough, you can't see this because we're just audio, right? But right behind me, there is a Y on the board. There's the Y. There's
the Y, Holu, OSP, work, and what?
No, it's why, how, and what, right? There's
how. Okay, that's a Holu.
Yes.
Yeah, what is Holu? So how? Okay.
Yes. Why, how, and what, right? Those are the three. That's the golden circle of purpose, right? And so yes, I just did a why workshop this past Sunday, right? So so you're right. It's not really philosophy only, right? It's that everything that you do in your life, you do because you believe in something, right? And so many times when you don't know that, when you don't really connect the dots with the things that are really important for you, then you just keep doing the wrong things, I guess. Or maybe the things, the worst of all, you see one thing, Adam, the worst of all is not that you do the wrong things. I think it's fairly easy to realize when we're doing the wrong things. The problem that I see most is that you do the right things, maybe for the wrong reasons, right? Or
Okay.
connect to the wrong things. And then it's a lot harder to see that they're not the right things that you should be doing right now, right?
Hmm.
I like to say that, for example, when people procrastinate, right? Lots of time we talk about procrastination, and people think that procrastination is watching TV when you need to be working, right? And that is the easy procrastination, right? If you're watching TV and you need to be working, I mean, that's going to be like a big red flag right in front of you, right? But that's not the procrastination that's a problem. The procrastination that's a problem is that you have this big problem to solve. And when you look at it, you say, oh, I need to learn this new tool here to solve the problem. So then you spend a lot of time learning a tool, right? That's not going to solve your problem. And it's still going to give you the feeling that you're doing the right things because you're actually learning, you're studying, you're doing something, right? So that is the
But
worst procrastination.
Bruno,
Yeah,
automation is the biggest procrastination, right?
that's true. That's very true. You're very
Because if I have to do something, I see immediately I can automate this. But I
right.
already know if I start with automation, it will take twice as long. But I don't have the time. But I do it anyway. But
Right.
it pays off. But it pays off maybe in weeks. But this is my procrastination.
Yeah,
And
I
it has
agree.
nothing to do with the task. But automation is procrastination.
Yeah, so there's good and bad ways for you to deal with procrastination, right? So, for example, in terms of automation, I rarely automate one thing when I need to do one time,
Yeah, sure.
right? So it's only when I see that I'm doing it two, three, it's five times, then I stop to automate, right? And so, but you're right, right? And many times, especially because you're doing automation is an interesting thing because most of the times that you automate some things because that's boring, right? It's very boring for you to do, and so you don't want to do it because it's boring. It takes a lot of time and it's not interesting at all. So then you're going to do something that's interesting that you automate, right? You know, but again, is the whole thing about what is worth, right? What is worthwhile to do and what is not. So that's why thinking about your life's purpose, thinking about your why, it's an important way for you to help you analyze what really matters for you and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't
you
think
said
I don't
automation
think
for boring stuff, but automation could be also for consistency. If you automate
that's true.
something, you always get the same results. This is also could be a reason, for instance.
Right, I agree.
And now one question regarding the why and how and what. You said this is like golden principles or something. So is it
Golden
like
Circle,
is uh-huh? Is
the
this
golden.
your invitation invention? Sorry, your invention, or is it?
Oh, no, no, no! It's not my invention. No, that's a guy called Simon Sinek.
Mhm.
See, I'm bad for names, right? Simon Sinek is the guy that created this notion of the golden circle. And for a long time, I like Simon Sinek a lot. He talks a lot about leadership, and he's very inspiring.
Mhm.
But for a long time, I saw this whole discussion about the why, the how, and the what. He talks a lot about companies, right?
Mhm.
And marketing, and how important this is for marketing for companies. And it took me quite some time to realize how important that is to actually for people, right? So for me, the company wants to have their purpose and thing like this. I think that's awesome, but I don't work with companies. I work with people, right? So once I realize how important this is for people and how powerful it is, that's when I start digging deep into this, right? So the golden circle that's behind me, it's from Simon Sinek, and I just did a workshop on Sunday with a developer, right? And he's such an amazing person, and he was completely lost, and in his career, not sure what to do. He kept going back and forth in different things, right? So I said to him, look, come on, let's sit down and let's work out what's really important for you, right? So, how you do things, what's the purpose that you have in your life and all that. And so, and I, once you, when you finish something like this and the guy goes out like with spark in his eyes, like, man, now I know, right? Now I understand myself. And he said, man, that's what you're talking about. That's exactly me, but I never saw myself that way, right? And I think that's a very profound, phrase, right? He knows that's exactly him, but he never thought about himself that way. It's and I think that once people realize why they do what they do and how they do what they do, it's so much easier to go focus on the right things. It's so much easier, to choose the right company, to choose the right job, to choose the right technology. And I think that once I understood that, it's really helping me. So that's why I do this workshop with all my students, right? I invite them. I do like several times a year. I do the why workshop just to help people out. A few years ago on TDC, developers conference, we did maybe 100 why workshops, right? Individual workshops with people to help them think about their lives better. So I think that has been an amazing experience, right? And especially because when you do a why workshop 101, right? We do in groups many times, but when you do 101, you have such an opportunity to listen to the other person and understand where they are, where they're coming from. And every time I did a why workshop individually with someone, it's really touching me a lot, and I think that's always an honor to do that to someone.
I ask you about that because without just I thought about maintainability of software a lot, and I think with the why I started, I don't know 10, 15 years ago, but what I ask, why you are doing something in software. It's not in your personal life, in software. If there is no answer, it's not maintainable because you wrote code and you don't know why. You just wrote to write it. But you should ask always why until there is no simple answer. Then it is, simple and maintainable. So this was my way, approach architectures and design, and it worked well. So I was not aware that there is a principle behind why, how, and what. I just misused, just the why to design software and think about architectures.
Okay, that's interesting. So,
I give you an example, for instance, right? So if let's say you have a Java code and there is a factory pattern. So I ask why you wrote the factory. And there should be an answer. You say, okay, because I would like, to have multiple implementations of an interface. So why you would like to have it? I mean, why is not one enough? And then usually developers either become angry because they say, okay, why? Because we have to be modular, whatever. So, okay, but it's not the explanation. What is the benefit, to the client that we have a factory with one interface in one implementation? And if there is no answer, delete the factory with the interface and just keep the implementation. Because if I say, why is the implementation? The answer would be, if there is no implementation, it doesn't work. So this was the simplest possible answer. So this is what I use, to check whether a system is not even over-engineered, bloated, or just purpose-built.
I think that's great. That's kind of combines a lot of things that we talk about so far, right? It combines the whole idea of the why. It combines the idea of checking your assumptions, right?
Okay, so I didn't know about that. So this was interesting. I listened to you and said, okay, and I just did the why thing, and it worked well, and people like that because it is way simpler than talking about modularity and all the idioties. From back then, you remember the Sun ideas about non-functional requirements and functional requirements. But even you can question, all the non-functional requirements, why it's important. Because in my project always happen, clients say mission critical 24/7. It's like, why? What happens if the system is 1 hour offline? And there should be an answer. If there is no answer, maybe it is not that important, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, and one interesting thing is that, as you said, developers get upset with you and you ask too many whys, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times the customer gets upset too, right? Because
this is inverse. So I'm a little bit more politically correct in customer, and there's a why. I try to formulate a little bit different.
Right. But the interesting thing is that that's true, right? A lot of times when you ask why and you go deep on the reasons, then you get to a point where, the person actually doesn't know, right? They
Yeah,
don't, they're not even seeing the value of doing all of that. And many times people just want things done because, because it checks some boxes, right? Oh, I want to
exactly.
a clean architecture. I want to fast something. I want to performance and modularity and all check it's all boxes. And then but then they don't consider the cost of doing this. They don't consider the time of doing this. They don't consider all kinds of other things. If the team is able to do it or not, right? If it goes well with whatever they have in house already. I mean, so all those other things are not considered because, of course, you you know you don't consider those things are good things, right? And so that's when you ask why, then a lot of times people tell you what their priorities are, right? And they
Hmm.
tell you what they really want, and then it's a lot easier for you to get to them what they need.
Yeah, because also interesting what you said, the burnout. So I think a problem could be as well that the how would you call it, cognitive load, right? If you
Mhm.
have to deal with frameworks all the time and you don't know why, you have to learn lots of things
Mhm.
without any advantage. So especially interesting like the front end frameworks. I mean, what we do a lot in project, we just don't use any frameworks, and then it's simple because you get to Mozilla Web Standards and you can just look what's there and you can learn it easily. And the cool story is, it remains that way for years. So there
Mhm.
is nothing, web standards are web standards. It was like 20 years ago, and it is a little difference, and here we go. The same is with Java, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we get Java 19 and Java 20, but not that I have relearn everything. I just, I can learn incrementally, and it's
Mhm.
still a lots of fun. But if I know, some of my colleagues, they learn a programming language every year, something different. I think this would be a little bit stressful because you never become good in something if you just learn, a little,
Mhm.
and you forget the other things. And in the end of the day, you learn the entire thing, but the outcome is not that great, I would say. So so interesting what you said. So I thought about this, and yeah, maybe the key to happiness is a little bit minimalism, maybe, right? So Yagni, you aren't gonna need it. Kiss, keep it simple
Mhm.
and stupid,
Right.
and if it works, I mean, then it works, right?
Right. Yes, and I think that's one of the interesting things about microservices that allow us to do those kind of things, right? Allow us to use
Oh,
whatever it's needed to do this small thing and not having to have this really big thing just to solve the small things, right? So that could be
what
uh,
define small? Because what I see a lot that with the microservices, people think small thing is like Unix ls. This is the small thing, or this was the definition. On
right.
of microservices, like the pipeline, the commands, and what I see hundreds of microservices, and the complexity is huge, and the advantage is zero. So what I tend to talk about monolith, but my monolith at most maybe, I don't know, a few hundred classes. So it's
Hmm.
not like a huge system, but it is a
Hmm.
small app, but it's monolith,
Hmm.
and this works well. The name is problematic, monolith, but yeah, there's like a tree, right? So a zombie would be better, maybe, but 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 yeah, be careful with microservices. I saw a
Yeah.
project where no one knew what's going on because there are so many microservices, and they asked me how to debug the thing. I was like, I don't know, you build this, right? I, can, I am just a guest here. I can watch, what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things that I like a lot, and even wrote about the colony law the other day.
Hmm.
Is the whole notion of not fighting against the way your team works, right? Lots
Yeah,
of people try to do. Lots of people try with just one team of 10 people. They want to build 100 microservices, and that's kind of fighting against the way that people
yeah,
work, that
yeah,
people communicate, right? So I do consider so what you're talking about, having a few small apps, right? They're not really
yeah,
monoliths, but they
yeah.
talk to each other, and that's probably way more close to what most companies are, right? Most companies are, just a certain number of developers divided in a small number of teams, right? So then, then you might have a few different services, right? But not necessarily hundreds of microservices, right? I mean, hundreds of microservices could work well for companies that's
Netflix.
also that they're no, yeah, companies that have hundreds of developers in lots of small
But
small
what I
teams.
really saw of smaller teams, like 10 developers maybe, and they built 100 services or 50 or whatever. And this was, and exactly what you said, right? The why, there was no why. They say, okay, now it's time to build microservices because we're in the year 2019 or 18, and this was the year of microservices, and they build them without
Right.
thinking why. And this was crazy because, as you know, if you have many, microservices, you have coordinate them, you have, patch them, release them, and everything has to be still consistent. So it's
Yeah, and
challenging.
there's lots of companies that cannot even deliver the one monolith, right, consistently.
But it's getting
And,
better. It's not the
and
impression that the software quality is getting better, or is at least more reasonable. It's not like we drawing UML 2 years and then generate code and hope that it works. It is more reasonable somehow, right?
yeah, I think there that's a very very good point, and I think that there's some reasons for that, right? I think that some of the things that really make software better are more usage, right? Things like might be funny, but things like Git, right?
Yeah,
Like code repositories, right? That's just a few years ago, the amount of companies that did not have a code repository was so huge. It's amazing, right? Um, you know, or things like CI and CD, not even CD, but CI, right? Just
yeah,
compiling the
yeah,
code, right? Frequently. I've participated in my lifetime. I participated in both in projects. There's no no code repository at all, right? I even remember one project that they had this code repository. It wasn't the mainframe. So the way they work it was they would FTP the code to the mainframe, and that's the mainframe would do a snapshot of the code. And so they would do this one time at the beginning of the project, and then okay, that check a box, right? And so now we can just work on whatever we want, and then once the project is finished, we can just do this again, right? So no, so and that it's not too many years ago,
but this was
right?
almost Git distributed repository was almost FTP still, but this was almost like it's not Subversion, more like Git. It was highly distributed, right? And
Yes, yeah,
you never had a merge conflicts. This was the amazing thing, right?
right. Yes, it's
No
you
branches. This was monorepo actually. I don't know.
yes, that's crazy, right? So that's so things like this, right? Things like I also working on projects where for you to compile the project, right? The guys that compile the project and build the jar file, right? They would take 2 weeks to build the jar file, right?
Wow, it's
Yes,
a
so
golden jar pattern. Is this?
yes, exactly, right. And so because it took 2 weeks for you to be able to compile the software and put it to run, the developers didn't even care what they're doing, right? They just kind of code whatever and just drop it because they didn't even know if it compile or not, right? So I'm just talking about this. This sounds so crazy, but those things were just a few years ago, right?
Hmm.
And I think that today, things like code repositories and continuous integration and even library repositories, right? Those things are so more common. There's
Yeah.
so many more people using them that there's no other way than the code gets better, right? Because now you can see, the turnaround between you writing the code and you're seeing the code running. It's much smaller, and people can actually do something about it, right? So I agree with you. I think that's from the project that I see today, the amount of projects that have those basic problems have fallen dramatically, right? It's nothing compared to how it was just a few years ago, and because of that, I think that projects, are much better, no doubt.
How software changed in Brazil pre-pandemic and now? I don't know whether we can call it post-pandemic, but somehow in how we call it in in middle of pandemic model, or late pandemic, let's say.
Right. Well, since a pandemic, something that only starts, right? And right. So once a disease is in a pandemic mode, it's always in a pandemic mode, right?
Yeah.
Just means that, so I think that we're never going to have the post-pandemic, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I think that what I saw is that, first of all, I like this. I was watching this this guy Silvio Meira talking about it right in the beginning of the pandemic, and I think he's so right that once the pandemic hits, companies move it to the future, right? Very fast. What does he mean by that? That's I've been working remotely since 1998, fully remote since 1998, right? So for me, when the pandemic started and people started working remotely, I mean, they were 20 years behind, right? So, and basically, they were 20 years behind, not because technology did not allow it, just because they wanted to, right?
Yes.
And so, in just a month, companies that were 20 years behind, they became, they jumped forward 20 years, right? Like this, right?
Yeah.
And so, at that moment, they had to have, not only remote capabilities to work, right? But they had to have repositories that were remote. They had to have continuous integration systems that would compile things remotely. They had to allow people to deploy in production remotely. I mean, they had all those things, right? All of that infrastructure that we have been talking about for years and years and years. We have been mentioning how important they are. We have been saying how much more quality your code is going to be. We have been saying how much better your developer is going to work on. All those things that were not in place just because there's someone that didn't think that they were important. Suddenly, all those things became extremely important. And then people move it to those environments like this. And so now there's no coming back, right? People are not going to go back to develop software the way they developed before, right?
But I think the reason why there's no coming back, because developers proved that they can be productive remotely, right? So there are no arguments for management. So there are actually no arguments left because it worked well. Some companies were even more productive than before. And now it's developer choice whether they work remotely or not. And there is actually no arguments left for management. So there are no arguments.
Right. And basically the way management did this in the past was, there's no way for you to do it, right? Because if you go remote, you can't access the things. You can't access the meetings. You can't participate on things, right? You are disconnected, right?
Yeah.
The reason I was able to work remotely in 1998 is because I was working for Sun, and Sun had a worldwide infrastructure, right? That allow us to call in to any meeting anywhere, right? So I could just be in a payphone anywhere in the world and just pick the payphone and call into a meeting, right? So I had the tools that allow me to do that. And so management could just say, you see, you work remotely, but you can't do things, right? Now they cannot say that anymore, right? There's no excuse, like, as you said, there's no excuses. And the other thing that I think it happened is that developers now they see the value of those tools, right? Not only management see the value, but the developers see the value of those tools, right? Because now those tools allow them more freedom, more autonomy, more time with their families a lot of times, right? So even people that like to work at the office, they actually see the value of those, right? So I don't think there's any coming back to a previous situation, and because there's no coming back, I think all those tools was just gonna, keep forcing us to do more high quality software.
Interesting. In the year 2000, I think there was a new Sun Microsystems site built in the near of Munich, and called in Heimstetten. And the interesting part is I was there because I was a freelance trainer from time to time. And I saw that you are absolutely right. So it was not even set up, that you have your fixed place. You came, you had like the Java card, you put, into the terminal. So you got the screen loader, so you could pick whatever seat you had, whatever room it was your choice. And you could start working. So it was in the year 2000. It was amazing back then. Right. I think they had the sun rays. I think you remember. The thin Java stations, and they worked. For me, it was amazing because okay, it's interesting. It's actually working.
Yeah. The sun rays are a nice concept. That's. I think that a lot of places they still work, right? Not the sun rays anymore, but I think there are other.
Yeah, sure. The concept. I mean, the GitHub code space or whatever is a very similar concept, right?
Right. Yeah. So not that we don't have
Another question, but because now I have an CTO or CEO or owner even of a huge Brazilian company. So Bruno, is it more the Brazilian companies are going to the cloud or going out of the cloud? What's the direction now?
Well, the impression that I have is that more people go into the cloud. I don't think there is. The cloud providers. There's several cloud providers that have data centers in Brazil, really catering to the.
So no repatriation. So the going still to the public clouds.
Yes, I think there's lots to the public clouds, but a lot of the public clouds are in Brazil, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's all the big cloud providers have data centers in Brazil. One big change that they start receiving, you can even pay in local currency, for example, for most of them. So I think that there's a much larger infrastructure of service providers that will help you, get your things in the cloud. I don't think everyone is actually having all the benefits of the cloud, right? Lots of people still. Lots of people are still buying like big machines just to run whatever, right?
This was my second question. Actually, this is telepathy. So I had actually two questions. What is the most popular cloud in Brazil?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about the market, but I still think that's Amazon, right? So AWS is probably the most.
And Azure is coming? I think so, right?
Azure is very big. Azure is big in Brazil. Oracle is big in Brazil.
Oh, cool.
Yes, Jelastic has a big partner in Brazil. Also, right? So yeah, there's some very large cloud providers here. They have data centers here. Some of them have more than one data center, and I think that's an interesting thing, right? Brazil infrastructure is a big difference between between the south and southwest of Brazil and the northeast of Brazil. So I think there's even cloud providers that have data centers in both places. So I think there is a big move. There's even lots of government entities running things in the cloud now. So.
And this was the question what they already started to answer is this like they're buying big EC2 machines or and just moving the virtualization workloads to the cloud, or are they smarter and trying to refactor or re-architect the applications?
I think it depends on the company. I've seen both cases. I've seen companies that are kind of buying big machines and just kind of running the cloud like they were just virtualization things like they're doing in place, right? But also there are lots of companies that are doing the right thing and doing things in the cloud and even some very smart things, right? Our friends Fabiani and Fernando, right? And
what she's doing.
Yes. So they're running. Their company was acquired, right? I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, maybe, or a year and a half ago, something. But they're doing. They have this very, very large, amazingly large workloads, and they're running in the cloud in a very, very smart way, right? So they benefit from whatever they can in terms of starting machines and let the machines die and just kind of recover. I mean, they're using all kinds of tricks to really use the cloud well. So I'm just saying that there are.
And hopefully Java, right? Fabian has to run Java still.
Oh yes, Fabian does everything in Java. Yes.
Yeah, then they should ping her. So.
Yes. Probably. Oh yes, you should, right? You should ping her. She's totally amazing, right? So she's doing so many amazing things. So.
Yeah. And you mentioned several times your students. Are you a professor, or how you get the students?
So I mentor developers, right? There's a lot of things that I, we start talking about career in the beginning, right? So that's the thing that I do most today is I mentor developers. I work with professional developers, people that have several years of experience, right? 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of experience, right? And basically what I help them is I help them figure out what they need to do, what their own path they want to follow, and then work with them to actually get the results they want, right? So that's the
Is it like coach?
I call mentor, right? There's a difference between there is instructor or professor, like you said. There is the coach and there's the mentor, right? So I think that those are three slightly different things, right? The teacher, the instructor is the one that teaches something. Doesn't matter what situation you are, the teacher teaches something. The coach, the other way around, the coach doesn't teach you anything, right? The coach helps you think by yourself and make your own decisions, and then the mentor is someone that have done similar things that you want to achieve, and then he both helps you think and move your own direction, but also teaches you some of the things that you need to do to get there, right? So,
but still, how the listeners of AHEX-FM podcast can become your students? Is it a possibility, or I mean?
It is possible. Well, I think, before anyone even wants to get my student, right? I think that I do have a book that, I have this process that I use to think of my career, right? And so, people asking me, so, how do you think about your career? How do you plan your next steps, right? So, and I have this process that I learned it from different people. And so I put all this together in a book. That's called The Best Developer Year, right? So it's a good moment right now to be talking about this, right? So I know I can put the link there in the description,
sure.
right? But so basically, what we have, I wrote this book. It's a very small book. It's about just a few pages, but it has all the questions that I ask myself to realize where I am, to test my assumptions, like Yolanda used to say, right? And then plan what are the things that I'm going to do next, right? So, I give this book away for free for everyone that's listening here, right? So then you can start thinking about your own career. And so if what you want to do, right, is something that you need help with, ping me and we can discuss, right? How to do that. But basically, that's what I do right now, right? I do help people, and I do have a mailing list, right, where I send daily emails for people to really think about their careers. Actually, today I wrote an email about ChatGPT, for example, right?
Okay,
Lots of people asking me, is ChatGPT going to replace developers, this kind of things, right? So I actually got ChatGPT to answer that question himself, right? Or itself, maybe, right? So if you guys are interested in working with someone to move your career forward, right? Yeah, by all means, reach out.
Very cool. Bruno, I will invite you next year. See how many, trees you planted and how many survives and how this zombie is doing. So it is already a curious case, the zombie, whether, there should be a difference. You should do a picture now and then next year, and we should spot the difference, whether the zombie is actually growing or shrinking. So this is the most interesting, fact for next year.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. So I'll take a picture of once we get all the trees up today, and not today, but this week, when we get all the trees up and decorated, I'll take a picture and send to you, so at least you know.
And Twitter, so I can retweet it. It would be cool.
I can tweet that. Yes.
I wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New 2023, and you and family all the best. And I hope the next year is going to be way better for you.
Well, yeah, this year has been awesome, man. Last year was the one complicated. This year has been awesome. Yes. So just clarify. Although I had a little bit of a problem in the beginning of the year, but we can talk about this another time. So, but yes, man, thanks a lot. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. It's always an honor to be invited to this conversation, and that you have a blessed Christmas. That everyone listen to us, have an awesome Christmas, and that 2023 be the year of your career, everyone else's careers. And I'm gonna leave here an invitation, right? So you're talking about the why and how important the why for this. If you ever want to do this, I'd like to extend the invitation for you to do a why workshop with me. We do a one-on-one workshop. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit more than recording a podcast. But if you're willing to spare that, maybe can help you focus even more your work, right? So
even more on my work. So yeah,
do what?
Focus even more on our work.
Yes, no, I'm talking to you, Adam, right? So
about my work is even worse.
Yeah, so if you want to do a wire workshop with me, let me know, and we can schedule.
But then you get a coding workshop from me. This is worse. Then why? I will force you to code Java again. This Bruno.
That's
This
okay.
what
That's good,
yeah.
man. That's awesome, right? You know, I'm sure I do code Java, so that's not going to be a problem at all.
I will find something, where not. I will ask, your colleagues, where is weak spot, and then we'll do this.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there's a running joke since many years ago that people say Bruno cannot learn know Java because he doesn't even know HTML. So that's my weak spot.
Okay, then we do a HTML and CSS power workshop. Very good.
Okay, good.
To all listeners, Merry Christmas, Happy New 2023, and see you next year.
Yeah, thanks everyone.